At a Mother's Day brunch, I brought flowers, her favorite perfume, and a letter I spent hours writing. But then I saw all my gifts stuffed into a garbage bag by the garage. I left early and did something about it. The next morning, she called nonstop. This year, I thought things might be different. Not perfect, not wonderful, but softer. I don't know why. Maybe because I'd been working so hard I hadn't had time to overthink. Or because I recently helped her with her taxes and she said thank you without strain. Or because last week, when I texted to confirm the brunch, she replied with a smiley face. Not an emoji, but an old-school colon and parenthesis, like in high school, before everything changed. So I let myself hope. I bought her favorite perfume, the one she wore when I was a kid, and she still called me sweet in front of others. I picked fresh flowers from a local shop, not a supermarket, and spent hours, literally hours, on a handwritten letter. Not just a card with a generic thanks for everything. I wrote that I knew how hard it had been for her, that I appreciated what she sacrificed for me, that I still loved her, even if it sometimes felt like she didn't need me. It wasn't desperation, but honesty. I told myself this brunch could be a reset, a step back toward closeness. She had me right after high school. For a long time, it was just us. Chaotic, but close. When I was 10, she met Jake, her now husband. At first, he seemed nice, quiet, practical. I thought I was gaining someone new. I didn't know I'd soon start fading away. Then my younger brother Zach was born. Suddenly, I wasn't her son anymore, just a reminder of her past. Jake wanted a clean slate, a perfect family. You could feel it in how he said, "our boy," about Zach, but never called me stepson, unless someone asked directly. Still, I kept hoping. Sometimes you want to be needed so badly it drowns out reason. So when I pulled up to their house that morning with gifts, I felt good. Nervous, yes, but proud. Like I was arriving as an adult worth seeing at the table. The house looked beautiful. She always goes all out for events. Mimosas, cloth napkins, name cards, picture perfect. When I walked in, she looked up from the table. "Oh, you're here?" she said. For half a second I thought she was glad. Maybe I'd finally done something right. I handed her the flowers and perfume. She glanced at the bottle like it was a receipt she didn't recall. "Oh, you remembered these?" she said, not warmly, just stating a fact. I didn't let it sting. "Yeah," I smiled. "One last thing." She nodded, already turning back to the table. Zach was talking about dorm life, how his economics professor seemed like someone who'd never paid rent. Everyone laughed. I sat down. My spot had a folded napkin, but no name card. No mimosa for me. No big deal. I poured myself juice, like a responsible adult. Jake asked about my job, but turned away before I finished answering. Mom adjusted the centerpiece. Zach passed me the salt without looking. It wasn't new, but that day it felt heavier. Maybe because I'd tried so hard? Maybe because the letter was in my jacket pocket? I'd sealed it in a red envelope, used a good pen. I was debating when to give it to her. "Who wants more coffee?" I offered. Mom didn't hear or pretended not to. Mid-brunch, Zach looked at me and smirked. "So you're doing Mother's Day from a distance now? Or is this your charity visit?" Jake laughed. Mom said nothing, just sipped her drink. I smiled like it didn't hurt and said, "Well, I didn't bring a coupon, but I've got a gift." Zach's grin widened. "Cool. You sent her money like last year?" "No," I said. "This year it's on paper." I stood, pulled the letter from my pocket and placed it by her plate. The red envelope stood out on the white tablecloth like blood. She blinked at it, like I'd handed her a court summons. Zach snorted. "What, a love letter? Seriously?" "No," I said, still smiling. "Just gratitude." For a second, The table went quiet. Then someone asked for butter. After brunch, I helped clear plates. As I carried dishes to the kitchen, I noticed the garbage bags had been taken to the garage. We'd barely finished eating. Maybe she just wanted order. She loves a clean house. I went to toss some napkins. The garage door was ajar, sunlight hitting the trash bins at the back. And there, leaning against a black bag, I saw them. The perfume, still in its box. The flowers bent sideways, carelessly stuffed. And the envelope. My envelope, still sealed, red against black plastic. Everything I'd given her, thrown out. I just stood there. It wasn't anger at first, but a heat rising up my neck, settling behind my eyes. Not tears, but enough to blur the world. I looked around. No film crew jumping out to say it was a mistake or a prank. Just silence and trash. I crouched, reached out, and took them back. Perfume, flowers, letter. I held them for a second in the dim garage, not sure what I was doing. Instinct, maybe. Pride, maybe. I couldn't bear the thought of my love rotting under coffee grounds and eggshells. I walked to my car with the bag in hand, like evidence from a crime scene. I sat inside, not starting the engine, and placed the letter on the passenger seat. How foolish to write it. Thank you for the years you gave me. I know it wasn't easy, but you tried. I'm proud of the woman you've become. I stared at the envelope, then started the car and drove home. I didn't say goodbye, didn't text, didn't mention what I'd seen. I didn't even slam the door. I just left quietly. That night, I set the letter on my kitchen table next to the perfume and wilting flowers. I stood there, staring, as if they could explain why I kept trying, why I still cared, why I hadn't seen this coming. I barely slept, but I made a decision. By morning, she was calling nonstop. I thought change happens slowly, like erosion. You don't notice until the shore's gone. But looking back, it happened faster than I admitted. She met Jake when I was 10. He came for dinner a few times, then every night. One morning, I woke up to his car in the driveway, his shoes in the hall. Mom wore more makeup than usual. She smiled at him in a way she hadn't smiled at me in a while. I thought, oh, soon Zach was born. I was still 10. I did the math later, but not then. She and Jake had a new family, like a switch flipped. New habits, new rules, a nursery where her office used to be, a second fridge in the garage stocked with formula and organic baby food, a chore list without my name. They were busy. Babies take effort. I told myself it was fine when they forgot to ask about my spelling test, missed my school concert, or left me waiting in the rain after karate practice. They were tired. It was temporary. I waited years for that phase to end. It didn't. Zach grew. They adored him. He walked. They clapped. He said Dada. They cried. I brought home a school award, and Mom said, "That's great. Watch your brother while I nap." She didn't stop loving me overnight. She just started loving someone else louder, and over time, that silence became unbearable. By the time I left for college, the house wasn't mine anymore. Their photos lined every wall, park trips, matching holiday pajamas, Zach on Santa's lap. Not one of me, not even my graduation picture. Erased. I'd pass a canvas by the stairs that read, "Family is everything," and think, yeah, but not this. Yet I kept trying. It embarrasses me now. I came home for holidays, bought birthday gifts, paid bills when I knew money was tight, even after learning they'd gone on vacation and forgot to tell me. I helped Jake get a job, using my connections to recommend him for a role he wasn't qualified for. He aced the interview. Charisma works when no one checks facts. They never told anyone I helped. That was fine. I told myself I wasn't doing it for recognition, but to stay connected, to feel like I was still theirs. Even after I got my own place and a good job, I kept visiting, calling, texting Mom on Wednesdays just to say, "Hope your day's going okay." Sometimes she replied. Sometimes she ignored me for days, but when she answered, it was like a gulp of air. Once, after I helped with insurance paperwork, she wrote, "You always come through, thanks." I reread that text for weeks. I'm not proud of it, but when you go from being someone's world to invisible, you'll understand. That's why this brunch hurt so much. I'd let myself believe we'd turned a corner. She sent a smiley face confirming the invite, thanked me for the tax help, didn't ask for money that month. I thought maybe things were leveling out, that she was softening. That morning, standing on their porch with flowers, a letter, and the perfume she wore when I was a kid, I felt like her son again. Then she laughed at Zach's joke about me being half family and said nothing when Jake cut me off mid-sentence to talk about stock options. She barely glanced at the envelope I gave her, the one I stayed up late writing, saying I loved her even when it hurt, even when it was one-sided. And then she threw it away. I saw it all. The bag by the garage, the red envelope crumpled and bent, the perfume box unopened, the flowers crushed under other trash. I took it all back, not to give again, not to prove anything, but because I couldn't leave it there. Those weren't just gifts. That was me, and if she didn't want them, I wasn't giving anymore. That evening, she texted, "You left in a weird mood. Hope we didn't do anything." I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. Not the years I shrank myself to fit the version of her life she preferred. Not the 1,000 small kindnesses I gave without thanks. Not the memory of her tucking me in at 7, saying, "You're my whole world," only for me to grow up and learn I wasn't. I learned that world had borders I couldn't cross. They didn't kick me out. They just made me feel like a guest in someone else's family. So I didn't call back. For the first time, I didn't try to be invited. I tried to remember what it felt like to belong to myself. I didn't sleep that night, not from rage or heartbreak, but from something worse. Clarity. That dim, cold clarity when you stop hoping. It's like standing in a house you thought you'd live in forever, realizing the walls are bare. Around 2 a.m., I went to the kitchen and laid out the 3 gifts on the table. Perfume, flowers, letter. They looked smaller, sadder, like relics of a version of me I didn't recognize. I stared at the envelope, crumpled from the trash, still sealed. I didn't open it. I knew what it said. I opened my laptop. First, the utilities. I logged into accounts I'd quietly paid: gas, water, electric. I scheduled final payments for the month, then removed my name and canceled autopay. Next, Zach's tuition. I'd offered to help with his semester. The transfer hadn't gone through, set for the 15th. I canceled it. The email confirmation made it real. Then I opened a new email to Mom. Subject: Mother's Day. The body. Just a heads up, I tucked an envelope with cash in the letter I gave you. It was for Zach's tuition. Hope you know what to do with it. Hope it's not lost. I hit send, closed the laptop, brewed tea I didn't drink, and sat in silence. Leaving her with that felt better than shouting. By 8:12 a.m., the messages started. Wait, what cash? I didn't see any envelope. Are you serious? How much was it? I'll check now. Then calls, one after another. I watched the screen light up and fade, voicemails piling up like little bursts of panic. I didn't answer. Let her panic. Let her retrace her steps. Let her wonder how much she threw away, literally and figuratively. It was a lie, of course. There was no cash. But she didn't know that. Now every time she thinks of that garbage bag, she'll feel it. What if I threw out something valuable? Not just a gift, not just money, something that could have saved them. And now it's gone. By noon, Jake texted, "You're acting childish. This is serious. Can you just say if you're lying or not?" I almost replied, "Ask the garbage truck." Instead, I silenced my phone and kept going. One last step. I opened my contacts and found 3 people I'd introduced to Jake. Colleagues, clients, one old friend who got him a side contract. I sent each a similar message. "Hey, just a heads up. Please don't tie my name to Jake Hatcher going forward. No big deal, just a personal boundary. Hope that's clear. No gossip, no details. Just enough to make them feel it, to wonder what happened behind the scenes, to unravel a few threads." I knew how his world worked. Jake's job relied on being seen as a reliable guy with the right connections. If I quietly stepped back, others would follow. By the end of the week, he lost a long-time referral. One contract was paused. Another client asked to work directly with someone else. I didn't have to do anything more. One email, a little space, and the machine started falling apart. That night, my phone buzzed again. "Did you find it? Please answer, I need to know. I think I saw that bag, but it's gone. Please. Is this real?" I looked at her name on the screen, imagined replying. Something cold, sharp, final. But that would have given her closure, so I did nothing. This wasn't revenge. It was about them feeling the weight I'd carried since I was 10, when I stopped being her world and became an inconvenience she couldn't wait to outgrow. It was about them scrambling in silence, finally hearing what I'd been saying for years. You can't erase someone and expect them to stay loyal. I know I lied. I know there was no cash envelope. But the pain, the detachment, the abandonment, that was real. And for the first time, they couldn't ignore it. Mom left a voicemail that night. Her voice shook, not crying, but panic seeped through her composure. "Please call. I didn't know. I didn't see. I'd never have if I knew it was there. Just call, okay? I'm sorry if I... Please call." She didn't say I love you. She didn't say sorry in a way that felt real. Just panic. Like someone who realized they lost something important but couldn't remember where. I didn't respond. The next morning, my aunt texted. Apparently, Mom called her in tears, saying I was cruel, secretive, causing trouble. My aunt's message was short. "In your shoes, I wouldn't answer either." That made me smile, because for the first time, someone saw it. Saw how much I gave, how little I got, how calmly I accepted my insignificance until it became unbearable. That weekend, I packed the gifts in a box and tucked it in the closet, not to keep them, but because I wasn't ready to throw them out. They no longer reminded me of her. They reminded me of me, the version of myself that kept trying. Now, I was done. By Monday, Mom stopped asking if I was okay and started demanding answers. Her texts shifted from, "Sorry, you're upset," to, "You need to stop this now." Jake wrote directly, in a professional tone, like we were discussing a contract, not a decade of buried resentment. He said my stepping back was affecting his work, and he hoped I'd reconsider for the family's stability. Translation: Your silence is costing me money. I didn't reply. Then Zach chimed in. His voicemail started with, "Look, I know things weren't perfect," and ended with, "Come on, you're ruining Mom's life over some trash." That almost made me laugh. Some trash. That was the problem. They'd treated me like garbage for years, something to box up and stash in the attic so I wouldn't ruin the aesthetic. Now I was gone, and they couldn't cope, and I still stayed silent. I didn't gloat, didn't post angry rants online, didn't send a final text listing their wrongs. I just stopped playing my role, and it drove them crazy. By the end of the week, Mom showed up at my office unannounced. She walked in like she was on a mission. The receptionist called me down like there was a fire. I found her in the lobby, in a cream blazer and heels that clicked like punctuation. No smile. "Can we talk?" she asked, already heading for the door. We stepped outside. She didn't ask how I was, didn't apologize. She cut straight to it. "You've humiliated this family," she snapped. "You've embarrassed your brother. Jake's job is on the line. Do you get what that means?" "I get it perfectly," I said calmly. She stared, eyes hard. "You're doing this out of spite over one party." I tilted my head. "You really think that?" She crossed her arms. "We raised you, paid for your clothes, food, school." I nodded slowly. "And I put the down payment on that house, paid your utilities for 2 years, offered to help with Zach's tuition. Oh, and let's not forget how you bought me sneakers in 5th grade. That hit her. Her jaw tightened. "That was your choice. We didn't ask you to help." "No," I said. "You didn't ask. You expected. Expected me to cover when Jake forgot the mortgage. Expected me to understand when you skipped my birthday because Zach had a test. Expected me to stay quiet when you smiled while he called me half family, like I was a mistake." She opened her mouth, but I kept going. "And you expected me to keep giving, even after you threw out the only thing I had left." That landed. She blinked, something flickering across her face. Guilt, maybe, or just discomfort. Then she made one last push. "You're not punishing the right person. You're punishing your brother. He didn't throw anything out." I gave a tired smile. "Want to talk about the letter?" She faltered. "I saw it, Mom," I said, "in the garbage bag by the garage. I took it back." Her face changed, the sharpness dissolving into something softer. I didn't know," she said. "I thought maybe you took it with you." "Didn't know?" I echoed. "Weren't sure?" "I didn't mean." "You never mean." I didn't shout, didn't raise my voice. I just let her hear it. "I'm not pretending to make this easier for you," I said. "I'm not cleaning up this mess. If Jake has to answer for how he got that job, that's not my problem anymore." She looked at me like I'd grown a second head, like the quiet, reliable version of me had been killed in its sleep and replaced by a stranger. Then she whispered, "You're not just punishing Jake. You're punishing this family." I nodded. "Then maybe this family should have stopped treating me like an outsider with a checkbook." I walked back to the office. I didn't look back. 2 days later, Zach posted a vague, dramatic story on social media about people abandoning families when things get tough. A few mutual friends liked it. A cousin DM'd me. "Is this about you?" I replied, "Probably. And if it is, good." Jake, I heard, started losing clients. People reconsidered partnerships. A vendor I'd introduced him to canceled a contract. He was asked to resign within a month, called it a restructuring. Everyone knew it wasn't. Zach's tuition wasn't paid. He took a leave of absence. I didn't say a word, not out of cruelty, but because silence was the only language they'd never learned to hear. Weeks after the office scene, Mom, Jake, and Zach called together. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail. "We just want to talk," she said, sweet and cautious, like someone trying to reset a chessboard after it's been flipped. Zach mumbled, "Sorry, I guess." Jake stayed silent. Then Mom added, "You've made your point. Now what? You're disowning us?" I listened twice, once to hear what they said, once to hear what they didn't. No one said sorry like they meant it. No one said we treated you badly. They just wanted me back in my role. But I was done with it, so I didn't respond. I blocked their numbers. 3 months later, I got a promotion, moved to a better apartment, started hosting small dinners with people who actually cared what I had to say. One night, Mom texted, "Saw you moved. Hope you're doing okay. If you want to talk, I'm here." No mention of what she did or didn't do. No question about how I was. Just a check to see if the door was open. It was locked. I brewed tea, sat on my balcony, and watched the city lights. No noise, no guilt, no game. Just silence. And in that silence, for the first time in years, I felt free. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. Maybe I should have let it go, smiled through the pain, picked a better moment for boundaries, chosen peace over silence. But then I remember that garage, standing there holding my unread gifts, still damp from the trash. I remember the letter I wrote with shaking hands, trying to be vulnerable with someone who threw it out without a thought. And I realize I didn't burn a bridge. I just stopped carrying the weight of what they broke years ago. I'm not proud of lying about the money, but I'm not ashamed either. For the first time, they had to face uncertainty, discomfort, the thought that what they discarded might have meant more than they realized. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh? Was it time to say enough? Would you have done the same or left more quietly? Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how people see this. And if you like raw stories about family boundaries and quiet revenge, don't forget to subscribe.